Grabe naman. It's 4 p.m. and we're bringing you the developing news and the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Patrick Paez.
And I'm Jove Francisco.
The big story at
Meron
this
pa bang iba?
Okay. We got a little confused
Yeah.
kasi Jovi is pinch hitting for us today. Wala si Bok Edlingao. Jovi?
Well, the big story at this hour, Vice President Sara Duterte resigns from the cabinet of President Bongbong Marcos. At past 3 this afternoon, the VP faced the media to deliver a speech, and she did not entertain questions. Here is the Vice President, now former Secretary of the Department of Education.
Earlier today, June 19, 2024, I sought an audience with the President and tendered my resignation as the Secretary of Education effective July 19, 2024. I have given my 30-day notice to ensure the proper and orderly transition for the benefits of the next Secretary. Mga kababayan, ang aking pagbibitiw ay hindi lulan ng kahinaan, kundi dala ng tunay na malasakit para sa ating mga guro at kabataang Pilipino. Bagamat hindi ako magpapatuloy na mamamahala sa kagawaran, patuloy pa rin nating itataguyod ang kalidad ng edukasyon na nararapat para sa Pilipino. Hindi man ako ang tumatayong kalihim ng edukasyon, mananatili akong isang ina na nagmamatyag at titindig para sa kapakanan ng bawat guro at bawat mag-aaral sa Pilipinas. Para sa isang matatag na Pilipinas. Mga kababayan, lahat ng ating ginagawa ay para sa Diyos, sa bayan at bawat pamilyang Pilipino. Syukuran.
Before we discuss the contents of that speech from the DepEd, let's just inform the public that joining us in the studio is One News Defense Editor Tito Manny Mogato, and via Zoom, is he already there? Our resident political pundit Tito Ronald Llamas.
Yeah.
Ronald, are you there?
Magandang hapon sa tatlong magigiting na host ng Storycon.
Okay, before namin tanungin si
Big
Tito Ronald.
big story, no,
Yeah.
Ronald? No? Kaya
Yeah,
medyo
it's
napatakbo
shocking.
tayo dito.
Yeah.
We were just discussing a while ago with Jove, no? The reason Manny is here also is because as defense
Security
editor,
dapat. We
were
were
still
supposed to.
supposed to talk about that
Ayungin.
incident in Ayungin. That more or less that grave and serious incident in Ayungin. But of course, this is the big story today, Ronald.
This is the biggest story.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I guess this is the only story that people will be talking about, at least for today
At least for
and the
today.
next coming days. So
Yeah,
what do you make of it, Ronald? Ano tingin mo? What's next? Not a surprise that she has resigned. You're not surprised, so what's next?
Hindi ako masyadong sorpresa dahil isang taon ko lang sinasabi yan na untenable at saka unsustainable yung kanyang posisyon sa official family ng presidente ni Bongbong as the secretary of the biggest department in the government. Lalo na after nung issue ng pambaluslos, after nung issue ng confidential at saka intelligence funds, lalo na after nung mga prayer rallies na yung kanya mga political allies at saka mga kapamilya ay binato na lahat sa presidente na boss ni Secretary Sara, binato na lahat, even the kitchen sink. So medyo talagang untenable na yan. At
May
sabi ko nga
nakalimutan ka,
last year,
Ronald, ano? Ronald,
if she
you
has
forgot
an
one
ounce
incident.
of self-respect, ay nag-resign na siya.
Yeah, Ronald, you forgot one key incident also after that interview of the First Lady.
Yeah.
Right? Remember yung interview sa First Lady where
The string
Yes,
of...
yes.
string
her
of,
famous quote, bad shot sa akin yan.
At panghuli, yung kanyang statement last June 12
Oho.
na yung unity team ay ceased to exist immediately after the election.
Yeah, no.
Diba?
Pang-election lang
Yun ang
daw.
sabi niya last June 12. Paano mo babawiin yun?
Yeah.
Inamin mo na wala na yung unity team as early as after the election.
Tama. Well, before that, that interview with the First Lady, of course, the airport incidents. Yung
Yung nag-isnaban.
Isnaban
sa airport.
Na hindi natin matukoy, pero at least nagsalita na nga sila.
So binuksan
lahat.
na yung champagne ni First Lady ngayon sa Malacanang.
Ay,
Hindi natin alam.
oh, pero alam mo, pinapansin namin kanina ni
Yung
Jove
communication.
Francisco.
It's the communication.
Okay,
Yeah.
it was not leaked, but there was a communication coming from the Presidential Communications Office. May post sila kanina sa social media. Natatawa kami ni Jove Manny kasi parang blatter.
Blatter.
It was blotter style. It's not even...
Parang nandun yung oras. Siguro. Nandun na yung oras at...
Tama.
Di ba?
Let me
Can we
explain
read that? Can we read that, Jove?
We can actually show it kung nahabol ng staff natin. No? Kung bakit tinatawag natin na parang blotter style.
221.
Sabi ko nga kay Patrick kanina, parang maayos naman kasi nasa parang letterhead naman siya, but the way it was written.
Okay, let's read, ano?
Yeah.
At 2:21 p.m. today, 19 June 2024, Vice President Sara Duterte went to Malacanang and tendered her resignation as member of the Cabinet, Secretary of the Department of Education, and Vice Chairperson of the
Two
NTF,
positions.
LCAC, effective today, 19 July 2024. She declined to give reason why she will continue to serve as Vice President. We thank her for her service. So, this is what I mean by blatter report.
Blatter style.
Nauuna yung oras, Manny.
Oo nga eh.
Parang police blatter.
Parang police
Pero,
blotter.
ibig sabihin, tinanggap na ng presidente.
Tinanggap ni Presidente, although
Effective
hindi
today.
sinabi niya, nakalagay effective today, although what came after, yung press con kanina sa DepEd, Tito Ronald, Tito Manny, and Patrick, sinabi niya doon na 30 days pa yung notice na binigay niya, meaning she wants to continue with the transition.
The wrapping up of things. So,
before
it's a
stepping
customary
down.
30-day before you actually leave office, right? Ronald,
Yes.
pero itong statement ng PCO, effective today.
Effective today. At saka yun ang pinagtataka ng Malacanang press.
Hindi na pinatatagal.
Patrick, Joby, Manny, parang parang ganyan yung gagawin yung letter pag tinanggal nyo yung inyong resident political pundit sa
Ayun.
Storycon. We thank him for his service.
Okay. So, we actually
Diba?
aired
Wala man lang ka-emosyon eh, di ba? Wala man lang.
But from the letter, no, parang I gather na medyo hindi rin expected yung pagtetender ng resignation. At least not expected today.
unexpected today, the fact that it was in blotter form.
They had no time to craft a better
Baka
written
Patrick,
press
nakalimutan nila
statement.
na birthday ni Rizal ngayon.
Yun.
Tsaka bakit
Sinibay sa
ang
birthday ni
nag-issue
Rizal.
ng statement,
Isang
EPCO,
ang ating national hero.
May mininote si Tito Manny. Yes.
bakit yung statement ang nag-issue, PCOO, hindi mismo yung OBP?
Well, PCOO, it's Presidential Communications Office.
Yeah.
Marami namang statement na nilalabas ng PCOO. But more than that, Manny, I think it's, I think it would, there are indications that it was not expected to be tendered today. But also at the same time...
Nangiintriga lang si Manny, Patrick.
Oh, yun. Yun siguro.
Okay, let's just balikan lang natin mga titos yung press con o kaya yung yung parang sabi ko nga valedictory na ginawa ni VP Sara do sa kanyang nangyari ito sa sa DepEd mismo So sabi ko nga saan ang venue ilalive kasi namin kanina. So sabi ko kung sa DepEd parang posibleng bumanat ito or magsabi ng anything political. So tama
There was nothing.
She just enumerated the accomplishments of her tenure as do sa portfolio ng education at saka kung ano yung pagtithank gratitude niya do sa mga stakeholders na nakatrabaho.
She's resigning as Deputy Secretary, but she will remain, again, as Vice President because that is what she has been elected to do. She's elected. She has a mandate there. But Ronald, what's the next step? What do you see happening next after this?
Well, kinakailangan niya i-consolidate yung kanyang political base, yung kanyang political allies na nag-hemorrhage at saka nauubos. So, kung yun ay iiwan, kinakailangan niya i-salvage. Dahil at this point, walang iba na pwede mag-salvage nga Hindi, medyo yung kanyang tatay ay matanda na. Nung rally nga sa Angeles ay nag-zoom na lang. Pwede yung kanyang kapatid, pero parang neophyte pa si Mayor Baste.
Diretsuhin ko na
to
si
lead a national opposition.
Ronald, diretsuhin na kita. Diretsuhin na kita. Tingin mo ba a formal coronation as the talagang leader of the opposition is forthcoming para kay VP Sara?
Yes, mukhang yun na yung magiging direction niya. Dahil nga wala nang ibang gagawa niyan na capable. Baka mahirapan naman si former spokesperson Harry Roque na pamunuan yung opposition dahil diabetic siya. Kaya talagang si Vice President Sara yung ideal, at least sa terms ng Duterte opposition. Sinasabi ko Duterte opposition dahil may iba pang opposition. At going into the midterms ay long overdue na yan. Kailangan nila ng leader. Kaya nga, kung papakinggan natin yung valedictory speech niya, ay ang daming nagawa ng DepEd, kaya magtataka yung mga nakikinig, bakit kinakailangan niya mag-resign? Ang dami naman palang nagawa at mga gagawin pa. So clearly, this is based on political calculation. Clearly, this is based on consolidating what remains of the Duterte opposition going into the midterms and even beyond for 2028. So the campaign for the presidential election in 2028 nagsimula ngayong araw na ito.
Hindi ba nagsimula 2 years ago, Ronald? Nung nagkaroon ng marami, alam naman natin mga aberya nangyari, the confidential funds and all that. But anyway, Ronald, to your point, so what you're saying is basically it's not possible for her to remain within the cabinet if she wants to assume the leadership of the opposition. As the highest elected official, normally dyan talaga sila yung nagiging leader ng opposition. Right?
Yes. Ang magandang obserbahan ngayon, Patrick, ay paano yung spin? Paano yung magiging spin? Paano yung magiging narrative ng Duterte opposition at saka ng Malacanang? Paano ito i-spin? Beyond yung blatter na nakita natin kanina. Kaya itong next few weeks ay magandang obserbahan how the communication battle, the communication engagement will unfold. Dahil hindi necessarily na yan ay negative for the Vice President. Hindi rin yan necessarily positive sa gobyerno. It depends on the spin. Kaya dito natin makikita ngayon yung mga PR experts. Paano nila isi-shape itong resignation na ito?
Okay,
In
Ronald,
favor or against the government and the Vice President?
Ronald, you sort of have the distinction of having seen this happen since year one of the PBBM administration. Nakita mo na magiging opposition yung mga Duterte family, no? So, but moving forward into the midterm elections next year and beyond, what do you see happening?
Well, interesting ito dahil halimbawa si first sister Amy Marcos na napakalapit kay Sara ay sa ngayon ine-negotiate ng Nationalista Party to be part of the administration slate.
Okay.
Yung kanyang kaibigan si Sara na kinumbinsi niya mag-vice president sa kanyang kapatid ay definitely will be leading the Duterte opposition slate. So, medyo malalagay din siya sa alanganin. No? Yung mga bilyar, si Francis Tolentino, etc., ay malalagay din sa spot dito. Ang tingin ko, yung matagal na natin pinag-uusapan din, Patrick, Manny, Jove, yung elephant in the room, yung ICC. How will this develop? Dahil sa ngayon kasi, wala nang balakid kay Presidente Bongbong na magbalanse. Dahil wala na yung kanyang Secretary of Education, yung pinakamalaking departamento ng gobyerno. So hindi na niya kinakailangan bumalanse. Kaya interesting din, paano natin titignan o anong gagawin ng Presidente sa usapin ng ICC.
Okay. Jove?
Dagdagan ko lang yung consolidation of forces sa Tito Ronald. Kasi mukhang kailangan na nilang alamin kung sino yung kakampi nila, no? Aside from this declaration ng pag-iiwalay, kung sino yung tatabi sa kanila. In fact, sa isang recent, pinakita ko kay Patrick kanina to sa isang recent speech ni Mayor Duterte. Parang sinasabihan niya si Senator Bongo, no, na parang ba't di ka nagsasalita? No, so para pinapaalala sa mga allies na Ronald parang dapat tumindig na kayo, no, para dito sa
stand up and be counted.
Yeah.
Parang the battle lines are drawn, di ba?
Yes.
Oo, si Bato nakakisara yan.
Ang problema lang, Joby, kung kilala ni Baste si Senator Bongo, alam naman niya na hindi mahilig magsalita si Senator Bongo.
You think, Ronald, yun lang yun? Or there's something deeper to that?
Tingin ko meron,
dahil kilala niya.
Like
you said, kilala naman niya.
Kung makalimutan, Patrick, binanatan ni Baste si Amy Marcos. Di ba? Yung Davao Rally.
Yes.
Di ba? Nagkabanatan doon. So medyo may pagka-loose cannon din si Baste. Similar to the dad. There could be method in the madness.
Okay.
There could be method in the insanity. No? Pero kailangan nating i-analyze maigi. Pero medyo siya yung nagiging mas katulad ni Digong kesa kay Sara. Si Baste.
Okay. Just like I pointed out some time back, Ronald, the Vice President seems to be showing more restraint and political discipline. At least when we think about her past, her past na yung video na napak siya ng sheriff. At saka even this whole tambalaslos thing was a quick reaction, di ba? It was a gut reaction right away to something that she felt was directed against her. So, but recently, mas measured? I mean, are you sensing the same thing? Mas restrained si Vice President sa kanyang mga political actions?
Well, ang tingin ko, nare-realize din ni Vice President at ng kanyang mga advisors that this is an existential battle. At hindi pwede rito yung mga simpleng outbursts of emotion. Kinakailangan dito ng political calculation.
Okay.
Tingin ko, yun yung nare-realize nila papunta sa midterm, papunta sa possible implementation ng international warrant ng ICC, papunta sa isang growing tension sa West Philippine Sea na malinaw na yung pagkakahati between the administration and the Duterte opposition is also pagkakahati between the two superpowers between China and the US. So tingin ko mas nagiging circumspect sila ngayon at medyo ginagamit nila yung political calculation to strategize how they will survive and how they will engage the Marcos administration.
Okay.
Okay. Moving forward, Ronald, tingin mo ba si Sara will be more open to attacking the Marcos administration?
I think so. Pero scaling up yan eh. Tingin ko yung mga attack dogs muna. Ang mangunguna, katulad ng paborito mong ex-human rights lawyer, yung paborito mong columnist sa Manila Times, no? Yung mga attack dogs muna. Tapos susunod na dyan, yung kanilang senatorial candidates. Tapos bago umabot kay Sara. So scaling up yan. Hindi immediately katulad ng nangyari kanina sa kanyang resignation speech, sa kanyang valedictory, hindi siya masyadong bumanat. No? So may tingin ko ay kinakalculate na nila na hindi ka na
Calibrated.
pwede na tambalos-los lang.
In 2019, Ronald Sara, then mayor, led the Duterte senatorial ticket in the elections. It swept the elections. Ano? Do you see VP Sara this time again leading the opposition or the Duterte senatorial slate in the midterms?
Yes, definitely ang magsisweep ngayon, or at least yung karamihan ng mga ipapanalo, yung administration slate. Pero may caveat yan eh. Dahil sigurado ba ng administration, no? Sigurado ba ng administration na yung kanilang slate na karamihan ay mananalo ay loyal sa kanila? Halimbawa, yung presidential sister na malamang kasama sa slate, loyal ba yan sa Marcos government? Yung mga Cayetano na yung isang sister ay tatakbo, loyal ba yan sa administration slate kahit malamang maisama sa administration slate? Yung mga Bilyar na sinuportahan si Kibuloy na malamang kasama sa administration slate, yan ba ay loyal sa gobyerno? Yung si Bong Revilla na re-electionist sa Lakas NUCD na malapit din kay Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, yan ba ay magiging loyal sa slate? Ang problema kasi ng government slate, wala talagang organic na administration. Siguro possibly yung dalawang tulpo, no? Yun lang yung pwedeng sabihin ng administration na kanila. Pero yung mga political parties na sasama sa Grand Coalition, hindi mo sigurado yan eh. Dahil pwedeng magbago yan ng political loyalty after the
especially,
midterms.
Ronald, if you think...
Depende kung sino yung magiging leading sa 2028.
Especially, Ronald, if you think that these families, these politicians that you mentioned, they do have lines and relationships with the two sides, with the Dutertes and with the Marcoses, right?
Marcoses.
The Villars, for example, the Cayetanos,
Arroyos.
the sister, right? Pareho yan, pareho may linya yan. So,
Yung mga lakas.
Yes. Ang problema lang, Patrick, medyo existential yung issue because of the elephant in the room, yung ICC.
okay.
So, ang hirap mamangka sa dalawang ilog kung yung very existence ng dalawang kampo ang at stake. Hindi lang siya simpleng political engagement eh. No? Talagang durugan eh. Because of the ICC issue. Yun yung nakaka-complicate dun sa traditional political calculation ng mga dynasties at saka mga families. Ibang labanan ito ngayon dahil nga dun sa ICC issue.
Kung papansinin mo, Ronald, si Bongbong nagpipigil pa, no? All these recent months, no? Hindi siya ganong bumabanat kay Sara, no? O sa mga Duterte. Ito kayang event na to would change everything?
Well, personality kasi niya, Mogs, di ba? Personality ni Bongbong talaga yung conflict averse at saka passive aggressive. Pero nakita mo rin itong mga nakaraang linggo, medyo diretso na yung kanyang atake sa destabilization. Di ba? Itong mga
Yes.
yung simula nung speech niya sa PMA several weeks ago, talagang pinuntilan niya yung destabilization plots. At hindi naman hindi naman yung mga dilaw ang nagde-destabilize. Malinaw naman kung sino kanyang pinapatamaan. So medyo lumalabas na rin siya sa kanyang comfort zone with these anti-destabilization speeches na dati ay ayaw niya aminin.
Okay.
Ronald, talking about VP Sara Duterte or the Dutertes as a whole and as a family, we normally see plot twists or political plot twists in their career, no? Alam naman natin yung last minute substitution, etong nangyaring Marcos Duterte tandem, those are plot twists, ano? Do you see the Dutertes, or at least Sara Duterte, pulling a surprise, something of a plot twist again anytime soon?
Ang nakikita kong possible na plot twist, Patrick, ay baka may isang Duterte na tumakbo for the Senate. Either si Digong o si Baste. Dahil yon, halos sigurado na winnable yon. At pandagdag yan sa leadership ni Sara sa opposition.
Okay,
Lower house.
how about the
Possible
plot
lower
twist?
house.
Ronald, how about the plot twist na may tumakbo sa
Sa lower
Congress?
house, yeah.
Posible rin yon. Dahil una, nandun naman si Pulong as congressman. Tapos mukhang hindi naman type ni Baste na maging mayor.
Oh. Pero
I
kasi
doubt
Ronald, we
kung
just
yung
like to
Vice
go back to the
President iiwanan yung vice presidency para tumakbo sa Congress. I doubt.
Kasi Ronald, this is not speculation. No? We just like to refer or recall that video. I don't know if you remember that video of Sara Duterte. She was speaking
Yes.
before a barangay in
Davao.
no? Na sinabi
Yes.
niya that
Local.
una sabi niya hindi natatakbo yung mga kapatid niya at sinabi niya tatakbo siya sa midterms. So she did respond or try to clarify by simply saying na I was taken out of context. Pero she did not explain how out of context she was taken. So there was that thing dropped, no, Ronald, na tatakbo siya.
So is this still an option?
Oo. Parang ito ba yung posibleng plot twist ba to? Na you see a Sara running
That's
in the
always-
midterms. Her term doesn't
Sa
end
Pilip-
until 2028 as vice president. So that means to say, if she's talking about running in the midterms, she will have to give up, right? Her
Her
vice
position.
presidency. Her position as vice president, right?
Yes. Pero kaya nga nakikita ko, it's too much of a gamble. It's too much of a gamble. Dahil vice president ka na eh. You are literally a heartbeat away from the presidency. At kahit wala ka ng cabinet position, magagamit mo yan sa isang national campaign as vice president. Dahil you're the number 2 highest official of the land. Kaya in terms of balance sheet, tingin ko ay masyadong risky na bumitaw as vice president at tumakbo sa Congress at labanan yung tinawag mong tambaluslos as speaker. No, masyadong maraming variables, masyadong maraming if. Tingin ko, bottom line, as things stand, masyadong risky, masyadong malaking gamble na mag-resign as vice president and to run as a congresswoman.
Baka nga option, no, Patrick, kasi parang isa ring option kung magpapatakbo ng isa pang Duterte or from their from their party sa Senado, pwede na sila maging swing vote kung magkakaroon na ng mga 4, 5 or 6 Duterte leaning senators.
Well, yes. Pero ito lang, Ronald, what's her political future if she decides to stay on as vice president and leader of the opposition? Is there a better political future there?
Well, tingin ko, with limited options, yun pa rin yung best option para sa kanya. Inuulit ko, very risky at napakalaking gamble na mag-resign as vice president to run for a position like Congress. Very risky. At yung returns ay hindi ganun kasigurado.
Isn't this what the Dutertes normally do, Ronald, no? Defy conventions and take risk and gamble and
Yes.
so...
Yes.
Pero calibrated yung yung moves ng mga Duterte. Tsaka, I don't think na you can topple Martin Romualdez in the House. He has so much control.
And ako, marami rin plot twist doon.
sabagay.
Alam mo naman sa House of Representatives. Pero, alam mo, that's an interesting point na pwede natin pag-usapan. Pero we need just to take a break. So you're still watching Storycon on One News. We just need to take a break and we'll be right back for more discussions about this big story about the Vice President's resignation sa Marcos cabinet. We'll be right back.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group. This is the Storycon, the biggest story today. Vice President Sara Duterte quitting the Marcos cabinet. She has resigned her post as Secretary of the Department of Education. Okay, reactions again.
Nagpadala na nga ang Malacanang pressure sa atin ng mismong resignation letter, di ba? Talagang ngayon, talagang dated today, received today.
Accepted today.
Accepted
Effective today.
Tapos kapag nabasa niyo po, wala masyadong wala yung mga madramang way of resigning. Diretso. Na gusto lang niya.
I thank the President, for example, for the opportunity to serve his cabinet. Walang ganon.
And for good housekeeping, sabihin ko rin na nagsalita rin ng DepEd, they won't be entertaining questions anymore. Via DepEd Attorney Poa, they won't be entertaining any parang questions about the political side of this. They will just entertain questions about the transition and not anything political starting today.
So si Wawa ba will also resign?
Hindi natin alam kasi tapo ko nga
Manny?
no?
Di ba Wawa?
Alam natin.
Well, may mga position dyan na
na co-term.
Oo, ang daming bit-bit ni Sara eh.
Yes. Anyway, nandiyan na ang isa pa nating pundit.
Pakilala mo na.
Okay.
Another resource.
So I know that I don't know if he's on the line or via Zoom. We have Richard Haydarian. Richard, via Zoom, we'll be able to see his face when he gives out his reaction to the big
Ayun.
story today. Hi, Richard.
Daming ganap. Kamusta guys? Kakabalik lang natin. Di ba ako nakamove on sa whopping go, at saka yung mga Mr. Supranational mga updates. Eto na, no dull moment in the Philippines. So, good to be back.
Yeah, Ronald.
And dyan
about-
pala, Patrick, yung tunay na resident political pundit.
Ayun.
Yun. Oo.
Nagparinig yung isa.
So Richard, go ahead. Your first reaction lang nung nalaman mo na kasi ngayon lang naman talaga nangyari lahat nagbigay ng resignation ngayon, tinanggap din ngayon. Your reaction.
I'm totally shocked. I mean, this is the most shocking development in my life. I went back to my Hegel, what is rational is real and what is real is rational. In short, this was inevitable. Di ba? If you followed yung mga sinisulat natin, mga sinasabi natin over the past 2 years, I think 400 vlogs I did with Ronald, among others. Yan ang inabangan namin na kailan mangyari yan. So I always saw this as a kind of a boiling frog phenomenon. And I think one side of the story realized na before sila maluto, they have to jump off, diba?
Yeah.
The pan, diba? And I think this is the jumping off the pan situation. But if this were a Mexican standoff, wala naman fire shot. Kasi if you look at the press conference that Sara Duterte gave, correct yung sinabi mo, no? She didn't say anything incendiary. In fact, it was as malumanay as Lenny's resignation or forced resignation from the Duterte cabinet. Do you remember? I mean, I'm not saying na may element of deja vu here, but when Lenny was forced out of the cabinet, people were expecting her to go guns blazing and attacking the administration, pero sobrang malumanay siya. Interestingly, Sara Duterte, who has been known as her father's daughter, for, of course, reasons that you all know, she also took a very similar stance and saying na ang ginagawa niya dito is para sa malasakit sa bayan. And essentially, she doesn't want to make a big deal out of this. But my understanding, and this is what Ronald also has been saying for a while, probably this is just the opening shot, no? Could be a long drawn and very ferocious fight between the two big houses of Marcos and Duterte. So now it will be very difficult for Marcos to pretend that everything is fine and dandy. And I think Sara Duterte the other week saying that the unity was nothing but essentially a tactical alliance for elections should have given us the warning na mangyari na itong resignation. I would also say that there could be let's be honest, operational and administrative reasons. I mean, kung wala kang tiwala sa isang cabinet member at sa tingin mo itong cabinet member na yan ay ibang pagtingin sa ating foreign policy, sa US-China relations, not to mention, may ibang pag-iisip pagdating sa anong mga pangangailangan sa bansa. If you're Marcos, are you confident having that person in the cabinet when you're having very sensitive national security conversations? I'm sure Ronald can say more about this from live from San about Ronald. But my understanding is it also makes administrative sense. There's no sense for you to be in the same cabinet if there's no longer that level of trust, especially now na pinag-usapan natin, potentially a war with China as things get really, really tense dyan sa West Philippine Sea.
Liwanag mo lang, Christian, kay Manny Mogato, sino si Hegel?
Christian?
Si Richard.
Si Richard yung kausap mo, nalilito ka na.
Ronald, wala na. Unfriend na kita ngayon.
Sorry.
Alam na.
Okay
Alam
lang
na.
yan, jet lag yan. Naka 4 hours flight lang, may jet lag na. But you get what I'm saying. So I think this is the situation we're looking. Obviously, honestly, I'll say, when it comes to Duterte, tama naman si Sir Manny Mogato na in sense that, they're known to be calibrated. I think Patrick was also right to say they are always setters or they defy always conventional wisdom. But at some point, they're going to meet their limits, diba? And I think this is not the case of them this is not a result of a very carefully calculated situation by the Dutertes. I think Duterte, the father, was expecting huge upheaval, huge backlash against Marcos earlier this year once he went gun blazing. Hindi nangyari yan. And I think if anything, tama si Ronald, medyo, let's be honest, medyo desperation mode ng mga Duterte. So I think they're really cornered right now and they may look for unconventional response, including potentially resigning and going for another office to protect their rear in Davao.
Well, I tend to agree more with Ronald when he says that that the method of the Dutertes is really madness or confusion or the lack of method. Parang mas ganun eh. rather than something really deliberate or calculated. So this could be just a reaction too from the part of the Vice President, who apparently or obviously has been seeding this past years, with everything that has been happening or done to her, at least in her point of view, starting with yung pagtatanggal kay Congresswoman Gloria Arroyo, which obviously she took as an attack against her. That's why she responded very harshly. And the next step was removing her confidential funds. So you can see, and all throughout, I mean, after that outburst over Tambalaslos, all throughout, she kind of kept her, tried to show some restraint. Baka nag-build up So may pagbi-build up na nangyayari leading to this. And maybe this is not the end of it. But this, more or less, I think, frees her.
Absolutely. It's not the end
frees her
of this,
to
and
do
I
what
think
she
what
wants
we're
to
also
do.
seeing here, I'm sure Ronald will take on this, but no, let's be honest, there were many times na we could see that the Dutertes were overshooting in a sense that there was an element of political hubris. I think they overestimated themselves, and immediately I think the rough texture of reality hit them. And I think now they're coming to terms with that. Let's not forget, just a few weeks ago, Baste, who Ronald correctly pointed out as potentially the next Zion, who could be running, may glamour photos na yata siya ngayon, so probably is preparing for the Senate. He also said, gusto niya ng peace, so medyo nag-raise sila ng white flag. I don't think that means the end of the story. That means that medyo nagsisink in sa mga Dutertes, that the walls are closing in on them, and we're not even talking about the ICC situation, not to mention the dynamics of elections, which clearly right now are in favor of the administration.
Maski si Duterte, sumisip lang Sumisip-usir ko sa kanyang statement, di ba?
Paiba-iba.
Alos kasabay ni Baste, naglabas naman ng feeler si Duterte na supportive siya sa Marcos government.
Hindi
at
daw
hindi
niya
siya
gusto patalsigin.
kumokontra kay President Bongbong Marcos.
Then days
No,
after,
at the same
babanat
time-
ulit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time, bumanat naman si Baste uli
Yeah.
kay BBM. After a few weeks back, ay nagbabackpedal na siya. Diba? So, kung titignan mo at a glance, yung mga ginagawa ng mga Duterte, malilito ka. So, kailangan mong i-deconstruct na maigi. At yan yata yung trabaho ng political analyst katulad ni Heydarian. Na i-deconstruct yung mga pangyayari na yan. At pumunta talaga doon sa sustansya ng kanilang strategy.
Baka
at tingin
naman,
ko ngayon,
Ronald,
nakikita na
malilang
natin yung
gising.
strategy.
Baka mali lang gising isang araw, kaya ganun, bumalik.
Pwede ba natin balikan yung consolidation of forces na pwede maging epekto nitong pag-bolt out, na-mention na to ni Ronald kanina na yung mga naiipit, the personalities, Richard, ng mga naiipit. So, on the spot ko na itong dalawang pundits natin. Amy Marcos, the Villars, the Arroyos, and Sintesa.
Cayetanos.
Sila yung nasa gitna. Sa ganitong laban, ang tingin nyo, saan sila puposisyon? Kahit na medyo maaga pa.
Ronald, do you want to go ahead? I mean, for me, what we also have to watch for is yung reaction ng mga secondary forces. We keep on talking about Marcos versus Duterte, US versus China, proxy wars. But I'm sure the others are also watching here. There are many political vultures, right? Hovering around, and they're looking for their opening. So, even though Sara wants siguro, ano tawag doon? Clean break, yun ba yung term dyan? The other people, the others who have their own axe to grind against Duterte may see an opening here. As we speak, there are multiple investigations against the Duterte in the House of Representatives. Others are itching for something in the Senate. So for now, I'm also going to watch what others are going to do, because they could also determine ang outcome itong back and forth na yan. Because I think Ronald has been correct na if you look at Marcos himself, he's quite diffident and very risk-averse. But at the end of the day, it's all these people around him, all the people, secondary forces, who seem to be the tail wagging the dog here. So I think this is the dynamics we also have to look at.
Pero sorry, pinapakita ng producer namin si Senator Amy Marcos. So ipipilit ko to. Sa tingin nyo, ipit na ipit ba siya sa nangyayari na ito?
Ronald, ikaw na lang sa mga kapatid.
Well, lalo na ngayon, hindi pa siya naglalabas ng statement.
Di pa.
Usually, first on the draw si Amy Marcos, di ba? Dito, tahimik siya. I doubt kung maglalabas siya ng statement bukas. So tingin ko nagka-calculate din siya. Dahil nga, nag-a-apply siya to be part of the administration slate while at the same time, napakalapit niya kay Vice President Sara Duterte.
Ronald, I wonder...
Kaya inuulit ko kanina, Jove, yung sinabi ko, na in one sense, ay medyo may possibility na ma-wipe out or dramatically ma-weaken yung slate nila Duterte na papatakbuhin sa midterms. Pero at the same time, yung magrarally sa slate ni Bongbong, sa administration slate, ay hindi sigurado ni Bongbong yung mga loyalties. Halimbawa, yung isang grupo dyan na malaki, yung macho group, Tito Soto, Dito Lapid, Ping Lacson, Gringo Honasan, Pacquiao, yan ay mga winnable Senate. Pero nandyan na sila even before Marcos. So yung kanilang political loyalty ay hindi rin sigurado. Tapos itong mga iba't ibang mga political parties na mag-negotiate to be part of the slate, NPC, NUP, Lakas at saka Nacionalista, at least dalawa dyan, hindi mo sigurado yung political loyalty kay BBM. So very interesting itong mangyayari na ito, na ma-marginalize na husto yung senatorial slate ng mga Duterte, pero yung magdo-dominate na senatorial slate ng administration ay hindi rin ganun kasigurado yung kanilang political loyalty beyond the midterm.
Ronald, I wonder kung problema sa mga politiko natin yung sinasabing naiipit, ano yung nabanggit ni Jove, na naiipit, when in fact, I think our political culture, as it is, allows all politicians, all these people to just keep jumping fences and groups effortlessly. Di ba? Parang madali lang naman para sa mga to
Yeah,
na...
Patrick, I mean, I think that's the default, right?
Yun,
Master
diba?
navigators ang mga politiko natin. It's the consistency which is what's difficult for them. And I think Amy Marcos is a very seasoned politician, and I think she has enough rhetorical and political dexterity to navigate her way through this. But yeah, I think, correct si Jove, na if there's anyone who's pinaka-squeezed in between dito, it's definitely Amy Marcos, because we keep on talking about Marcos versus Duterte, Marcos versus Duterte. The moment you mention Amy Marcos, biglang, it's not so clear cut, isn't it? Yeah. So I think that would be also something to look at in the coming months and all. And the race in the Senate, Ronald is correct, it's very, very tight. Even si Amy Marcos, medyo alanganin siya. If you look at it, she's definitely not in the safe zone. From number 5, 6 above, it's very, very competitive for the next 15 candidates. So these are also tough choices also for Amy Marcos. Saan siya po position dito, and at the same time also maintain her more or less above the fray positioning. Kasi parang positioning sa sarili niya is independent pa rin eh. She is her own, which is very much her personality too.
At nangyayari lahat itong maneuverings na ito, itong political calculations na ito, sa gitna ng isang unprecedented superpower game. No? Nangyayari lahat ito. Hindi ito nangyari in the past na dalawang superpower ay involved hindi lamang sa ating external na paligid, sa ating rehiyon, kundi sa loob ng ating bansa. At pandagdag pa dyan is the ICC issue na ngayon lang din mangyayari. Ngayon din, so yung dalawang variables na yan, ngayon lang mangyayari sa gitna ng traditional na maneuverings ng mga dynasties, political families, at political parties. Yun yung nagkikreate ng bagong dynamic.
Okay, Ronald.
Tama tayo na yung mga dynamics na yan ay hindi naman bago. Dati na yan eh. Diba? Dati na yan eh.
Yeah.
Yung cynicism, yung political opportunism. Pero lahat yan ay nangyayari in the middle of a superpower game and in the middle of an impending ICC international warrant.
Okay, Ronald, Richard, ito na lang, bottom line.
I mean, my read here isn't this also a reason to think na maybe ito turning point na ito sa Philippine politics in a sense, because the stakes are higher than ever. And Ronald is right. We're kind of like the Berlin of Asia nowadays. What Berlin was in the 50s and 60s or Vienna, that's what we are today. So next level ito. And this could be an elections that for the first time, foreign policy could be not number one issue, but one of the. And you could see some people saying, we're Team Philippines, sila Team China. Sabi ng kabila, no, we're Team Independent Foreign Policy, kayo Team Proxy War. So I think this is where we're going to see. So it's going to be maybe a variation on the theme, as Patrick suggested, or it could be completely a new ball game because of the stakes involved here and bigger actors also having their own, fingers being dipped into the pie here.
Okay, Ronald Richard.
Hindi ako magugulat na for the first time nag-meet because of the Yumin incident. Hindi ako magugulat na for the first time nag-meet yung Mutual Defense Committee. over this issue sa
Okay.
ayungin.
Mahabang
habang
usapan na naman yan,
pinag-uusapan natin
Ronald.
kay
Dali,
Vice President
dali lang,
Sara,
Ronald. Ronald, before we go deep into that, because that's another long conversation, I think the bottom line here is this, Richard, Ronald. Do you think this resignation is going to help bring up again the numbers of Vice President Sara Duterte? Because we've seen her numbers go down.
I doubt it.
Okay, quick answer, Richard.
Richard.
How about you?
Pero sabi ko nga kanina, Patrick, pero sabi ko nga, Patrick, kanina, labanan ito ng spin. Kung kakapusin ng spin yung palasyo, then definitely, no, magbe-benefit si Sara. Pero as things stand, tingin ko ay hindi ito makakatulong kay Sara. As things stands right now. Pero again, it's a battle of spin.
So how should the palace spin it? How should Sara spin it?
Well, my understanding here is that Marcos has very much plausible deniability, di ba? Sabi niya, wala naman akong ginawa. Siya ang nag-resign, di ba? I'm not doing anything. I'm the responsible, above the fray president. I always stood by Uniteam. Sasabihin niya naman, I'm number one fan of Sara. I wish her the best. So from Marcos' side, what he's gonna say is, I didn't do anything. Now, decision niya yung lumabas. Problema niya yan, essentially. So he can wash off his hands in that way, and that will be the line. Sara's case will be essentially paawa, diba? That she has been oppressed, that she has been pushed out of the cabinet, that essentially nagbetray ang government ni Marcos dun sa pangako niya, dun sa mga sinasabi nila yung Uniteam. Now, again, Ronald is right. Maybe Sara, she will not say this openly all the time, but I won't be surprised yung mga kapatid niya, yung tatay niya, yung mga other political surrogates nila will come out. So it will be a battle of narratives. Each side painting themselves as the responsible, mature actor, and the other side as the immature, selfish, dynastic one.
Ronald? May gusto kong dagdag, Ronald? Wala na.
So, medyo napagalitan ako dito. Nangingay ko.
Nasaan ka ba talaga? I think nasa Amerika, ano?
Sa Incheon.
Madaling araw.
Engagement,
Sa Incheon, no? Sa
Madaling
lounge,
araw, di ba?
no? Anyway,
Ang ganda ng skin ni Ronald
Go, Ronald.
well, ang sabi ko nga kanina, Patrick, Jove, Manny, no? Pwede gagamitin ito nila Sara to consolidate not only organizationally their base, but also to consolidate their message. Sa ngayon kasi, minsan yung messages nila contradictory. Iba yung sasabihin ni Digong, iba sasabihin ni Harry Roque, iba sasabihin ng Vice President. Tingin ko ngayon ay meron chance sila to have a very compelling, consolidated narrative. At tingin ko, yun yung
They will talk in
posibleng
one
maging
voice.
positive sa resignation ni Sara. Kung magagawa nila yon. Dahil ang hirap din kasi kontrolin ng tatay. No? Kaya kung si Sara na ang magli-lead, and they are not only consolidating the base, they can consolidate the narrative, then it can be positive for them. If
We have to wait for President Digong, no, to say what really is the reason for Sara's resignation. Baka may
Actually-
sasabihin si Digong.
Actually, ang hinihintay ng netizens, I was monitoring kung mukhang walang inaasahan na bombastic from the Vice President, pero
Si Digong.
may inaasahan tayo kay former President.
Oo.
Digong. Right, Richard? Natatawa si Richard.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I'm waiting for the fireworks. Yeah. I think my division of labor na good cop, bad cop dito eh.
Well, you know, Ronald,
So
Richard,
tignan din natin kung
apparently-
magre-respond si First Lady
Yeah.
if ever in-attack yung kanyang asawa. I think we know the battle lines if ever.
Yun ang mas magandang abangan ni First Lady.
Okay. You know, kailangan namin, maganda sana na ibang topic with the three of you here, no? Kasi meron tayong security issue, pero security na dapat pag-usapan, so as we'll be busy. Pero next
Natabunan
time,
na, Manny.
Natabunan na siya.
Natabunan yung incident sa
Yung
Ayungin.
dumating si Sara eh.
And ayaw naman namin na si Tito Ronald ay masipa palabas ng kung anumang venue sa nakaupo ngayon dyan. So let's thank our two pundits for joining our discussion today about the resignation of Vice President Sara Duterte from the Marcos cabinet. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Ronald.
Thank you.
Salamat. Kansamnida. Kansamnida.
salamat.
And of course, this could be a fitting end to our episode today. And parang light naman ang konti tayo mag-end. So pakita namin itong graphics na ito.
Something that came out first,
Noon pa.
noon pa.
Oo,
Okay, but now it's it's come to pass. Nangyari na.
Kompleto na yung Rubik's Cube, kung yun ang tawag natin dyan.
Oo. Unang lumabas to, Jove, nung hiwalayang di ba? Sunod-sunod na hiwalayan yan Katniel, Bea Alonso and her boyfriend, si Kim Chu and sino to?
Sian Lim.
And now,
Yan rin. Oh.
Sabi nila matatag daw yung yung
Unity.
Unity, pero well, ayan na, kasama na siya sa block na yan. So, kumakalat. May mga nag-remind na ng mga netizen na ito'y posted about many months ago.
yes. Relevant again today. Okay?
Relevant.
Nangyari na.
Nangyari
At syempre, naka-black and white kasi parang sad kasi may mga breakups. Pero anyway, kahit medyo sad, it was a good discussion about, sabi nga nila, the start of the campaign season.
Yes.
It's the start of the campaign season. Okay, so join us again tomorrow here at the Storycon, 4 p.m. I'm Jove Francisco.
I'm Patrick Paez. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks, Tito Mike.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.